Hi, and welcome to our latest episode of West Coast XC. I am your host, Ken Martinez. And if you're watching us on YouTube, would you please subscribe? There's a subscribe button up there, and it really helps us out. And if you're listening to Apple Podcast or on Spotify, there's a follow button. That would be fantastic too. We really appreciate it. In this week's episode, I talked to Coach Dave Frank, a big-time coach here in the Portland area, longtime high school coach, and big track fan. And he talks to us about the Grassroots 3000, which is a high school meet, but you'll hear on the recording that anybody can run it. But it's an early season high school meet. He probably doesn't want me to call it a high school meet. It's just a high school gathering of athletes running the 3000, which is what Oregon runs. We run the 1500 and the 3000 out here in track. And he'll talk about the history of that event and how anybody can just come on this Saturday, February 7th, and run the race. This past weekend, I went to Miles City at the University of Washington at the Dempsey Indoor, and I took pictures of all 76 races. That's right, all 76 races. There were seeded races, invitational races, and there were also open races. And if you ran in this event last weekend, you can go to our website at westcoastxc.com or go to our bio at our Instagram account at westcoastxc and open up the link and go through the gallery and press on the photo, and it lets you download the photos you'd like to have, and they're free. How you can help us is you could follow us or subscribe. That would really be helpful. We have a Venmo account also on our Instagram account too. That'd be great too. But pictures are there for you for free. I took lots of photos. Finally got them all done, and they're up and ready to go. All 76 heats of Mile City. 9 o'clock to 6:05 p.m. on Saturday. It was a great event. It was fun to watch. Athletes from all abilities. We had little kids. You'll see those on the gallery, to dads and moms, and high school athletes, middle school athletes, college, professional athletes. It's a great event over at the University of Washington. They do a wonderful track meet. So go ahead and check that out on our website or on our Instagram bio, Mile City. And we're looking forward to going back next week for the Husky Classic, which is the final indoor meet at the University of Washington. But let's talk about what's coming up in a couple days, which is the Grassroots 3000, and we're going to check in with Coach Dave Frank. Hey, I want to thank Coach Dave Frank for coming on today. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Ken. How are you, man?
Pretty good. Coach Frank is the cross-country coach at Mountainside, one of the coaches in track and field, Mountainside High School in Beaverton, Oregon. And I have Dave on here because when I was coaching, and now that I'm a photographer, I go to this really cool event in February called the Grassroots 3000, and Dave's had a big part of that. And so I invited him on to talk about it. And so I'm going to let you, Dave, explain what is Grassroots 3000? How does it work?
Well, real quick, before, and you might edit this out, but last month, my brother and sister-in-law surprised all of us, came to town
Oh, great.
from France, and Trina asked about you. She wanted to see how Ken was doing. So, anyway.
Tina used to cut my hair, and it's not been the same as
Yeah,
you guys can tell on the YouTube. It's just not the same, and I miss Trina very much. So hi, Trina.
yeah, that's cool. So Grassroots, what happened was, go back, I guess it was almost 10 years ago. And the reason that I say almost 10 years ago is that my son graduated in 2016, and he lives in Philadelphia, and I saw him last weekend. I was in New York at the Millrose games, and he came up from Philadelphia, and I told him about this race we're having. I said, "You ran that, right?" And he said, "I don't remember running anything like that." And so I'm going to guess it's 8 or 9 years old. And what would happen over the years was that I had a big stable of distance guys at Central Catholic. Probably 20 boys that would train all winter long. And we had a devil of a time getting into any track meets, any indoor track meets. And we didn't want to fly over the country and do track meets, but you try to get into the UW indoor. They have one indoor meet, and you would try and get as many kids as you could get in, but the standards were really tough. And you ended up getting two kids in, maybe three at the most, right? And I was Tom Rothenberger and I were sort of lamenting this because he had a similar situation at Jesuit, 15, 20, 25, boys and probably more girls that were wanting to run a race. And none of us are really dialed into indoor track. Um, but we just thought it would be nice to get kids a chance to race, when they've been training pretty seriously all the way from December, and now here we are into February, and we can't find them a race. And Tom said, and I full credit to Tom, he said, what if we did something like a pickup basketball game? Just tell everybody around that we're gonna be at a certain track at a certain time, and anybody who wants to come run a 3K can run. And we're not going to do entries. It doesn't cost any money. We're not going to publish any results. If you want to get a time, your coach should show up or you should time yourself. And it was just a chance for kids to, whether they put a jersey on or not, to run with some kids from other schools, sort of see where their fitness was. Nobody got too worried if they didn't PR. Yeah, it was just a really nice way to sort of test, where you were. And the first year, Tom got a hold of Pat Werhane at Nike and said, "Hey, do you think we can do this at Nike?" And Pat was like, "Sure, that sounds great." And so they wheeled some speakers out, and we ran two or three heats of a 3K, and kids had fun. I think our original plan was to go eat pizza afterwards, and I don't think that actually happened, but
Hey
just a
Dave, can
chance
I
for kids
can I
to
interrupt
get
you
in.
there? For those
Yeah,
people watching or listening, many of you probably know that Nike has this fabulous track on their campus that the infield has a forest,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
outer lane of lane 8 is surrounded by a forest. It is one of the most unique tracks. So
yeah,
you're not technically allowed to go on it. Nike has a bark dust berm that goes all the way around, and the public's allowed on that. You're technically not allowed to go
yeah,
on the track. So it's kind of a unique experience for those kids to run the 3000 at Nike because it's just a beautiful track, such a unique
yeah.
track.
And I think it's only 6 lanes, but I was in
Right,
when I
six
was
lanes
in
is
New
not
York,
right.
somebody some coach that I met, it's impossible for me to say this without telling you the story, Ken. We're going up to the meet, we're on the subway, and there's six or seven of us, and we get off the subway and we're trying to figure out which way to go, and there's a group of men who look a lot like us, right? They're in their 60s probably, and they've got running shoes on, and they're clearly going to the meet. And we start chit chatting about this and that, and they're all track coaches from Indiana. And somehow Cole Hawker's name comes up, and one of them says, "I think he's training in Portland again a lot." And I said, "No, I think he's in Blacksburg, with Coach Thomas." And he goes, "No, I think he's splitting time now." And I sort of was, all sort of sure of myself,
Mhm.
"No, I'm pretty sure he's in Blacksburg." And then one guy goes, "Well, let's ask this guy. He's Cole's high school coach." But one of those guys I was chatting with, he says, "I would love to run that Nike track. Is it
Yeah,
hard to get on there?" And I said, "If you show up a one dude, you're going to run the track, you're probably not going to get in any trouble. You'll have a hard time parking. You got to figure out your way around. But yeah, for this kind of thing, if we're going to have a race and we showed up out there, there'd be security out there saying, 'Hey, what are you doing out here?'"
right. Well, you got
Um,
permission, and it's a unique experience. I know one year, uh, Dave, I know you're going to talk about this part, but it snowed. It
well,
snowed in Portland, and it closed everything, including the Nike campus. And we were supposed to go to the Nike campus and
that's
run on the track, but
exactly right.
technically, you can't go to Nike or any place, right? If the place is closed, it's closed. You don't have
Yes.
basketball practice, you don't have
Yep.
wrestling practice at your high school. And at Nike, you can't hold an event on their
Right.
campus because it's closed.
And
So we went to Jesuit and it was a
right.
winter wonderland. I have great pictures
Oh,
of it wasn't cold enough where it sucked to the ground, but it was just these beautiful flurries. Do you remember that?
well, we had some heavy snow. Everything closed down, and we were scheduled to go to Nike. You're right, and Tom, I asked Pat, and Pat said, "Hey, we're closed. There's nothing we can do." And at the last minute, Tom said, the heck with it. We'll just go to Jesuit. And basically he said, if I get in trouble, oh well. You know what I mean? Like he'd been there so long, he sort of figured he wouldn't get in too much trouble. And it was about 30 degrees, and there was swirling snow, and it was blowing about 30 miles an hour. And I
Mhm.
remember when the last heat finished, I looked at Tom, I said, bye. And
Yeah.
I went and got in my car. I
Yeah,
was
it's
so
cold.
cold. And the kid from Park Rose won, Farhan Ibrahim, or I forget. He ran like 8:58 that day, and he went on to run about 8:20 out, in the outdoor season. It was such a tough day. I think my kid Ben Brown got second that day. But it was so miserable, but so we did it at Nike for a few years. Then we went to Jesuit that year, and then it just sort of bounced around a tiny bit, and Sherwood picked it up. John Mantalis at Sherwood volunteered to host. And did it for a while there, and then I guess it's funny. I think we've done our due diligence in terms of asking if it's okay. We've always checked with our ADs, and it's been fine. But I think last year some ADs for some reason, got a little nervous about it. We still checked with OSA. They said okay, as long as you can't wear a school uniform,
Right. It's off
right?
season.
That's one of the big things. You can show up in a Loa t-shirt and a Mountainside t-shirt or whatever, but you can't wear a singlet that's, a school
Mhm.
issued thing. And we've always been super careful about that stuff. Um, and so this year, John Mantel said, "Hey, we're not hosting this year. Do you want to sort of put it on again?" And I said, "Sure, I'll help out again." I said, "But my version of helping is telling people where it's going to be, and saying, here's what time we're going to start, and then helping make heats and say go." Right? I go, I'm just, I don't want it to be more than that. And again, a big part of it is, for me at least, you don't have to sign up. You don't have to register, not to pay anything. And I think it's important, at least for me, I don't want the results to get published. I don't want this to be that kind of event. It's a pickup basketball game. Nobody's getting medals for winning a pickup basketball game, right? And, because some things are happening early this year, like the Oregon Relays is really early, there were a few coaches that said it would really be nice to get time. So maybe we get kids qualified for Oregon Relays.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
my answer to that was, hey, if somebody wants to do that, you go ahead, and I'll just sort of get out of the way,
Yeah.
because that's just not my vision of this. And I know I haven't talked to Tom, this spring, this the winter about it, but I know that our original intent was that it was just a chance to rub elbows with each other, kids on different teams, and sort of go at it for 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 minutes or whatever. You know,
In 2020, it was back at Nike. And what I liked about the event is that there's heats, and you kind of like, and it's hard as a coach. What kind of shape is your kid on the first weekend of February? But you make a pretty good guess and put them in the right heats. And I remember my boys in particular ran really well. They ran great. And of course, you know what happened in 2020? About a month later, we lost our
yeah,
season, and I just felt we were primed and ready. It was so they were so excited about how
yeah,
fast they were running, and so that was really a good memory of kind of a bittersweet memory, but a good memory of my kids. The fact that you can put them, you're not, there's not really kids getting blown out. Coaches are pretty smart about putting
right,
their kids in what we think is the right heat.
yeah.
It's not like
And
it's like it's a pickup game. You're saying you just don't
it's
know.
it's really simple. I mean, we basically just say, on the girls' side, hey, we'll start with just pick a number out of the air. Say, hey, how many we got? Let's say there's 36 girls standing around. How many do you think you can run under 11 minutes? And if you get anywhere between 15 and 23, you say, okay, you're in the fast heat, and everybody else is in the less fast heat, right? And
Mhm.
if it's only 9 girls, then we change that number a little bit, right? And same thing for the boys. We'll just start with the numbers. Hey, how many under 9 minutes? If 40 guys raise their hand for 9 minutes, we're going to say, how about 850, right? And but then the other side, excuse me, one of the things I really think is important is that if we say the cutoff is 9 flat, and a kid went there thinking he's going to run 905, or his PR is 905, and he says, "Can I run that fast heat?" The answer is yes. run whatever heat you want,
Hmm.
right? This is not a hard and fast. We have to have these many numbers
Right.
here. This is a hey, do what you want. If you feel like this is where you're supposed to be or you want to be in there, that's fine. I tend to put my kids in a heat that's maybe a little slower than I think they're fit for right now. I because when they're showing up all winter long and the weather is, what we get here in Oregon, and they're just out there training their butts off. I want them to walk away from this day feeling sort of good about what they're doing.
Right.
And if I get a kid who's might be an 8:59 kid, I might just put him in the 9:15 heat. I'd rather have him be competitive, but not everybody does that way. That's okay.
Mhm.
We're just trying to make it so, yeah, we don't want kids getting blown out. We want there to be sort of
Yeah,
what's
it's
the word?
getting this.
Homogeneous,
Yeah, right. It's
homogeneous group of kids in there.
in the first week of February, it's about confidence. You don't want to have
Yeah,
them starting out so bad.
yeah.
So let me ask you
So,
about this. Why is it called Grassroots 3000?
well, to be honest, we tried to come up with a name that would be pickup basketball 3000, but it
Hmm.
just didn't sort of flow off the tongue that way. And so we just talked about the idea that it's not it's because it's so non-formal, informal, right?
Hmm.
And it's just coming from coaches talking to other coaches. We send an email out. We don't have Oregon Live anymore. Remember back in the days, Oregon Live, we could have put this in Oregon Live, and 150 coaches would have got the message.
Yeah.
We try to get it to as many people as we can. We have a few coaching friends in Eugene. We make sure they get it, and we try to encourage people to pass it on as well. If you're getting this and you think another team, another coach, another kid might be interested, and by the way, I got no problem with anybody coming to run. If there's a Masters runner out there that thinks this would be fun, Jake Stout wants to run, come run, Jake. Masters women that want to run, it doesn't matter. It's open to everybody, right? And so it's just sort of born the sort of the foundational deal and word of mouth. And so I think Tom might have come up with that name as well.
Mhm.
Tom, I gotta say, one of the things I love about Tom Rothenberger is that I think he does a lot of things that are good for lots of kids. And I don't mean that it certainly benefited the Jesuit kids to have this opportunity, but he could run a time trial by himself and not invite anybody. And they're probably going to get some benefit out of that. But he does stuff. I just feel like he does a lot of things that are good for a lot of kids. And, people look at that program and see the success. I think a lot of people miss that about Tom.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I've known Tom for a long time, and he has a lot of great ideas. And you do too. You do some postseason track stuff too. The kids that don't make it to
that's
the state meet in Eugene, you might have some kind of a race at South Eugene High School where the state meet's not too far from there at Hayward Field too. It's just
Yeah, we've done that, and then we've done in the weeks right after the district meets happened, we'll pick a site and say we're going to run 800 meters and run as many heats as we need, and then 4 days later we'll run a 1500 meters somewhere.
yes, right.
And we've done some 3Ks, but it's been a lot more eights and 15s for kids at the end of the season. Although I think we were going down and doing a 5K down at in Eugene on the morning of the state meet. Justin Loftus at Crater started that idea, and then Steve Richards at South Eugene sort of kept it going. I think when Richards took it over, he renamed it the El Jefe.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that. Yes,
And
right. Got those
so,
emails.
but I think one of the joys is getting kids together to run races that what there really is no pressure on them, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the track season, it's like that. Hey, you're in great shape. Your season might have ended, but a lot of times also for our JV type kids, the season ends. They run their whatever JV district. They're in good shape, and the weather is just starting to get nice, and
Hmm.
now their season's over. And so we go
Right.
run these little, a couple of years ago, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we ran 800 out at Grant, and I think we had 11 kids boys under 201. Um,
Right.
and those were kids that didn't qualify for state.
Yeah, we would
So
have sometimes it'd be a Jesuit, and I'd have GV kids that wanted to break. They hadn't broken like 440 in the 15, or they just wanted one more chance. And it's there's no official timer, so you just got to have the coach in a
yeah,
Seiko and just hope that's going to way it's going to be. But yeah,
the
those are
ones that
some.
we were doing postseason, I was getting results for those. and getting them on athletic.net. I felt that to me that's a little different situation than this one. But anyway, kids get times. There's some fun matchups every year. And there's kids. Some kids are running indoors. The Spokane, the podium out there in Spokane's got a couple meets. University of Portland's got a couple meets that high school kids can get in as I think as unattached or club runners. And then last weekend up in Seattle, they had that Mile City, and
Right.
there were lots of Portland area kids that raced up there. I didn't have any up there, but there were I looked at the results. There were a ton of Portland kids that
Yeah, I
ran.
was there, and there I saw a lot of familiar faces from Washington
Yeah,
and Oregon. It was pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So this weekend on Saturday, February 7th,
yeah.
at Sunset High School, Coach
So
Dan
we
Way
are
is
so
hosting it.
Well, Dan wants to make sure that it's clear that Dan is not hosting, but
Okay,
he has cleared it with his
great.
administration that it's okay to have this event. And Dan, I think, will be there cheering on and doing all that. And again, hosting doesn't entail much other than saying, "Hey, how fast you want to run?" and be in that
Okay.
heat, and saying "go." To be honest, but he made it very clear. I'm not hosting this thing. I just make sure we have a site. So
Yeah, we have a site.
at
So,
Sunset.
yep.
And I think we're going to run the first. We expect probably to have two heats of girls. We might have more, starting at 12:30, and three or four heats of boys starting at 1 o'clock. Again, if there are three heats of girls, that'll change that.
Hmm.
But we're hoping that if you're a girl and you want to run, try to get there by around 11:30 so we can get heats organized. And for boys, try to be there by 12 so we can organize. And
So,
and
so let
here's
me
the
ask you this,
deal.
Coach. Does a does their coach have to email somebody, or can they
Nope,
just show
nothing.
up?
Just show up. And
Okay.
and I know the last few years, I think Coach Mantalis Sherwood was trying to be a little more organized than I am.
Hmm.
He was trying to get an idea how many kids, and where they might be. But I'm much more the idea. You know what? We're just going to figure this out. And the other thing is, if I say, hey, try to be there by boys 12 o'clock, and you show up at 12:45, you're still going to get to run.
Hmm.
And you might not be in the perfect heat for you,
Yeah.
but it's not. You're not going to be penalized because you showed up late,
Okay.
right? So anybody that wants to run, it really makes no difference. It'll just make it a little easier for us to build heats if kids show up a little earlier. And even if the kids aren't there, if the coach says, "Hey, I know what my kids can run. I got four under 11 and three above 11 or
Yeah.
whatever it might be."
Okay.
Uh, so every time I raise my hand like that, my computer goes, "Are you raising your hand?" On the Zoom thing. Are
Yeah.
you raising your hand?
Well, it is yeah, right. It's like a classroom tool here. Well, Coach, I sure appreciate you coming on, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday and watching this. And again, for anybody that wants to do it, and you live in the Portland area, or you want to make it to Portland,
Yeah,
it'll
we have some
be. I'll try
Salem
to get
kids.
there at the middle of the day, 11:30 noon, at Sunset High School. That's in suburban Portland. It's technically the address is Portland, Oregon. It's
Yeah,
off the
lots of
26th freeway.
parking there, which was people were concerned about. We were thinking about going to Dunaway Park, and there's hardly any parking there. So
Right. It's a nice,
you
that's a
know,
great downtown track, but it's really hard to park there. Yeah. And then you
and
also have the community there too. You have no idea who's going to be on that
well,
track.
yeah,
So,
you could have a lacrosse game going on, and that's
yeah.
Hey, I got one more little quick story, kid. I think you'll
Sure.
enjoy.
Let's do it.
So we finish. I'm at Milrose, and I go to that restaurant bar afterwards, and I run into Elliot Peterson, and then I'm with Joe Rubio and a few other fellas, and we catch an Uber back to where our hotel is, which is it's at least 10 miles away. Okay, and there's a bar about a block away. Called the Junction, and we walk into this place, and we're trying to get up to the bar. It's not super crowded, but we're trying to get up to the bar, and we hear the one man he's got an accent. Can't tell. I don't know my Australian from my British to my Irish or whatever. But we hear him say, track and field or something that leads to say, "Oh, were you at the meet today?" And he says, yeah, I was at the meet. Of course I was there. Well, we don't know, of course.
Hmm.
Doesn't seat that many people, the Armory, right? And well, so where are you from? He said, I'm from Australia. Oh, so you came all the way up here, huh? He goes, well, I had an athlete racing in the meet. And we said, oh, who
Oh,
was that? He said, have you heard of Cam Myers?
yes.
And we said, you're Cam Myers' coach?
Wow.
We're 8, 10 miles away from the arena, and there are how
Yeah,
many bars in New York City?
sure. Yeah.
And we meet Cam. Now he was quick to say that Dick Telford is Cam's, absolute coach. But Dick is 80 some years old and doesn't travel,
Hmm.
so he's the assistant who gets to go to meets with Cam, and he
Wow.
made it very clear. His name was Robbie Bolton, and he is a super nice guy. Shared a lot of stuff that Cam did, but I'm just blown away that stuff happens in the world.
That's
You
so
know,
wild. Yeah, New York City's a massive city, right?
it's
You're not
huge.
you're not next to the Armory, and you bump
No,
into the Cam Myers. Cam Myers won the Wanamaker
yeah,
Mile,
yeah.
348. He's 19 years
347.
old. 347.
Yeah, the
Yeah, he's
16-year-old kid Sam Ruth
ran
from New
348.
Zealand
I
ran
got my
348 the day
my
before.
teenagers mistaken, my New Zealand and Australian teenagers, but Cam is a 19-year-old Australian
Yeah,
who ran up at the Dempsey a couple weeks ago and ran 349 and then ran 347 to win.
and
You know,
he
my wife and I saw Cam run at Washington, so we were like, I think I like Cam's chances. And
yeah,
then it was like a strength race because he had the lead and
yeah.
didn't. I said, "Oh, there they come!" No, they can't come. He's so strong.
And he won the 3K the week before in Boston, beating Grant Fisher and
Mhm.
and a very good field. So
Yeah,
he's the real deal. It's a fun time to be a track fan if you're an American or not, right?
yeah.
So very cool stuff. So all right,
That's a
hope we'll
great
see
story.
people on Saturday.
Saturday around noonish, 11:30, get
Yeah,
there
yeah.
and get into the right heat at Sunset High School, February 7th.
And it's showing rain on my radar, but
Yes,
we'll just
we're
have to
having
see.
absolutely outstanding weather in
Like
Portland.
65
It's
degrees today.
65 degrees, it's super warm, but Portland becomes Portland again
Yeah.
on Saturday. All
All
right, well,
right.
Dave, thanks a lot, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Thanks, Ken. Always a pleasure.
I want to thank Coach Dave Frank for coming on. He's talked about a lot of things. Actually, he talked about the Grassroots 3000. He also talked about his sister-in-law that used to cut my hair. Trina, I miss having her cut my hair. I knew Trina before I knew Dave. Dave was coaching at St. Francis when Trina started cutting my hair. And then she said, hey, my brother-in-law is moving up to Portland and coaching up here. And I got to know Dave through Trina and through coaching. And he also tells some great stories of the Milrose games, which is awesome. I went to Nike Indoors last March and had my first opportunity to be inside the Armory and get that whole experience. So when I watched the Milrose games on TV, it was awesome because I was at the track for 4 days last year and looking forward to doing that again in March. And so I will be at the Grassroots 3000 for all the heats. Coach Frank explained to us that if you can get there between 11:30 and noon and find out what heat you want to be in, the first race will be at 12:30 and it'll go all the way till about 2 o'clock. And it's not timed official. There's no timing company there. You'll have to have a friend or a parent or your coach record your time. So it's very casual, very low key. But at the same time, there's so many people around your ability that you'll get carried away with a great time. You'll be surprised to how fit you are in this part of early February. And so if you have a friend that wants to do this, it's at Sunset High School. Get there around between 11:30 and noon to figure out what heat you're going to be in. That's February 7th at Sunset High School. Because, Sunset High School is on the West Coast, and the West Coast is the best coast. We'll see you next time.